the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Thanks for tuning in, being a part of the program today. And, of course, if you want to be a part of it, love to have you text in as well on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. 0321. That's how you can chime in and let us know what's on your mind. Ask a question, leave a comment, agree or disagree, or even point us in a different direction, because sometimes that happens as well. But love to have you part of the show today. Again, 2 hours. We'll be here from 4 to 6 here on these airwaves, as we've expanded back to 2 hours starting this week. And getting more into Utah State football. We've got Utah, high school football is not that far away. Starting next Friday, we have some teams hosting their scrimmages this week. So there's a lot going on. So we'll be getting into a little bit more about football. Utah State, I had a chance to visit with some players after practice today. We'll hear from them. Coach Bronco Mendenhall had some things to say. We've talked on about the Mountain West for this upcoming season a little bit, and there's various different publications who putting things out there about the Mountain West. Yesterday we talked about projected win totals. Well, the next thing to talk about is the Athletic put together this list of quarterbacks throughout all of college football, and they placed them in different tiers. So they kind of ranked them 1 through 136. So where are the different quarterbacks throughout the Mountain West being ranked, and how do they compare to each other? And some surprise me. Others, it makes sense why they'd rank them the way they would.
Yeah, it's a task to rank quarterbacks 1 to 136. First off, you got to figure out, who's starting. Because, like, for instance, one team that I looked at, they have a different starter than I'm expecting. So you have to figure out who's actually going to be the starter. And then you start into the ranking. And, of course, you're going to take somebody off because somebody thinks you're going to rank this person too low or this person too high. All that fun stuff. It's part of the sports discourse, but it's what we're here for. It's what we're here on the radio for. I disagree with some aspects of their ranking. More so which order they have the Mountain West quarterbacks in. I don't really care who their normal top 15 is. I'm not, because there's somebody who probably whined them about having Arch Manning at 10th. But that's just the way it's going to be. They're going to rank guys where they're going to rank them, and we can talk about them. So, yeah, they rank, obviously all 12 quarterbacks in the Mountain West fall somewhere 1 to 136. Though, spoiler alert, none of them are in the top 20. So don't go looking in there. But there is one, at least, in the top 25 that they have there. And so let's go ahead and dive into this. Starting with the highest ranked quarterback out of the Mountain West on their list. Most of you can probably guess that it's Maddox Madsen for Boise State.
Yeah, this did not surprise me. I mean, the team is considered a top 25 team by the coaches. This is a player who had a nice season last year, but greatly overshadowed by the guy he would hand the ball off to, Ashton Genty. But he's got one more year of experience, and he made solid plays himself to help the Broncos last year, and certainly the red carpet is rolled out for him to have a larger role and a bigger impact this year. So it doesn't surprise me to see Maddox Madsen in the top 25. coming in at number 23 in this ranking. So he's in their third tier of the Athletic.
I think my biggest issue with, I don't know if I'd call it an issue, because I don't really care that much, but having Maddox Madsen in the top 25 is interesting because he was not that impressive last year. He was good. There's no way I could call him bad. But this is a guy who leaned heavily on having Ashton Genty to kind of make things a lot easier for him, and he still wasn't particularly spectacular. I think for him the biggest thing is I'm not going to say he's a bad quarterback because you develop and you get better. And that's what happens to quarterbacks is they get better year to year. And so while Maddox Madsen hasn't been nearly as good as I think he would have to be to deserve a preseason top 25 quarterback ranking, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to be that by the end of the season. And I think that's the biggest key. It's very likely to me that he ends up as basically amidst the crowd of the rest of the Mountain West. And so in a sense, that's kind of why I started this by saying that, started using the language, the biggest issue is that he's ranked at 23rd in the nation. The next highest Mountain West quarterback is Anthony Colandrea. I didn't actually look up how to pronounce his name. The quarterback out of UNLV, the presumed starter there. I don't think there's that big of a gap between the other quarterbacks in the Mountain West and Maddox Madsen, at least right now, as I see it based off of last season.
Well, and it's at Maddox Madsen at 23, Colandrea at 69.
Yeah, 69. So it's like that is a massive gap, and I do not think the gap is that big.
Yeah, so they've grouped. There's 7 different tiers that the Athletic has put together here. So Madsen coming in at tier number 3, and this is what quarterbacks who are in this third tier are described. Most teams would be happy with a quarterback of this caliber, great ability and a solid body of work, but they have some flaws. On their best days, they can be great, but there can be an underwhelming moment or two. And I think that pretty accurately describes Maddox Madsen.
Still, you're a top 25 quarterback. You're one of the best. You're potentially winning. You're potentially an all-conference quarterback. I know that's
most teams would be happy to have a quarterback of this caliber.
Yeah, but that seems like an underwhelming description for a top 20 quarterback in the country. Maybe that's from your P5 perspective. Because if you have a top 25 quarterback and you're a G5 team, you're over the moon. That's one of your best quarterbacks in program history, probably, if he's a top 25 quarterback. For most programs, he may not be the best in program history, but one of the best that you've had. And that's when you're you're essentially in that top percentile of college. And again, I think Maddox Madsen can step into it, but he has to step into it. He's not there yet. That's the biggest key with that is he's not there yet. Emphasis on the yet.
I agree. And I think that this number 23 ranking is probably more a reflection of the program, of the team, than it is necessarily specifically about him. But he is experienced. He was part of a very good team that went deep into they won their conference title. They won the college football playoff. He was a part of all that, and he's coming back. So he's got a lot of great experience, but more of it is going to be on him to lead the team than he had available with Ashton Genty. But right after him, there's a big gap. Because you go from 23 down to 69. You drop, and there's a whole tier that disappears in between them, tier number 4. So you get into tier 5. There's a number, quite a few. There's a few players in tier 5. There's more in tier 6. But tier 5 is, you've probably seen these QBs before. Many have played well in college, but haven't put it all together consistently yet and bring some what ifs into 2025. There's some lower end power 4 guys here. But if you're a group of 5 fan, there are some really good ones here.
Yeah, and I think, you look at, again, Colandrea, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize, but coming from UNLV, coming from Virginia to UNLV.
It's a transfer, right, yep.
And he's got a decent history on 2 years. He threw for 4,000 yards, but his touchdown to interception ratio is pretty bad. He doesn't have a negative ratio, which is, at least it's not awful, but 26 touchdowns to 20 interceptions, that is not a great ratio. And his completion percentage is good enough. It's in the 60s. So, again, he's like on the edge of that kind of guy where you're like wondering whether or not he's really a net positive as a passer. So he needs to take a step forward because, honestly, if he doesn't take that step forward, he shouldn't be the second best quarterback in the Mountain West. He wouldn't be. There's guys behind him that'll do the job better than him. If he doesn't get better from what he did at Virginia, which, he's going from the ACC, which the ACC has been a bit weak of late, but still, it's a power conference. He goes to the Mountain West. Maybe things slow down a little bit for him. He's also going into his junior year, so another year older and wiser too and whatnot. Then, again, if he takes that step forward, then he could certainly be good. But, they got to do some work on him because, again, and I think The Athletic, they kind of had their own description of him where it's like, one play he's making a big play, the next play he's making a dumb one. Like that was kind of their analysis put roughly. If you have it in front of you, maybe you can read it.
Yeah, good luck predicting whether Colandrea, a transfer from Virginia, will produce an amazing play or a costly turnover from one down to the next.
Yeah, so that was the gist of from what I remember reading their description of him, because I hadn't looked into him too much, to be perfectly honest. So I can't offer in-depth analysis the way I kind of know a bit more about Maddox Madsen. But I think he can be a decent quarterback.
Well, I think that just like Madsen benefits from the institution, the success, the name brand of Boise State, I think that Colandrea, he benefits from the name brand of Dan Mullen and the history that Dan Mullen has had with quarterbacks. Because Colandrea, on his own merits, you probably don't look at him and say, oh, yeah, that's the number 2 quarterback in the Mountain West. But you see him paired with that coach, and UNLV has been on a bit of an upswing lately. And so maybe that's where he gets that kind of a benefit of the doubt. Still seems high to me.
Yeah, and
because he's an unproven target. Granted, he comes from a Power 4. He's a transfer, but he really wasn't that great at Virginia. But to put him at the number 2 quarterback was a little bit surprising to me.
And I think coming from Virginia also helps when you're coming from a power conference. There's an expectation that if you come from a power conference, you're going to step in and be great, which there's some justification for that thinking, but not a huge one, I don't think.
The other quarterback in the Mountain West in tier number 5 and ranked number 81 overall, Walker Eggett from San Jose State.
So this is an interesting one because, for one, Walker Eggett ended up overtaking Emmett Brown mid-season at San Jose when Emmett Brown was playing pretty good. Mm-hmm. He was looking like statistically one of the best, if not, he might have been the best quarterback statistically in the conference. He lost his job to Walker Eggett. Brown is either graduated or transferred, so it's Walker's show to run now, definitely. But I don't know. It's a guy that he was pretty inconsistent because one week he was throwing for 400 yards, and then a few weeks later he'd be throwing for 80 yards. And he also threw a lot of interceptions. And so he's kind of in a similar boat to, I think, Colandrea, where it's like, and some of his numbers are worse. Like his completion percentage is under 60%. Yep. That's not good. You don't want to be hanging around in the mid-50s in completion percentage because you're dropping off to being an inefficient quarterback. And you also had Nick Nash last year. He had a star wide receiver to throw to. He's not going to have that same talent in the wide receiver room. He had that, and he was still throwing 10 interceptions. So he really needs to settle into his own. I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West. I think he has that in him. But again, that some of that efficiency you got to worry about there.
Right, and it's he's described as a gunslinger. He's not afraid to chuck it downfield, and sometimes that puts him in trouble.
Gunslingers got to actually hit their targets enough, though.
Right, and so that's a little bit of the knock against him. Like he was good enough to unseat the starter, the named starter for the start of the year. Played 7 games. Started 7 games last season. But is a little bit turnover prone and not quite as accurate with some of those tendencies. So then you drop into tier 6, and the next quarterback on this list, not that far behind, coming at number 83, So just 2 spots behind Egat. That's where we find Braden Fowler, Nicolosi. But tier 6 is described this way. These quarterbacks have a lot of question marks, but there's talent or a trait there that someone is betting on. Now, Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, interesting. He's the third quarterback on our list here now, fourth quarterback on our list.
He's the fourth.
And by other accounts, some publications would put him as the number 2 quarterback in the conference. But you and I both have discussed there's kind of a bit of a fool's gold here with Colorado State, and we're not really sure just how solid of quarterback Fowler Nicolosi is. He can make some plays, but he also seems to just fade in some games.
Yeah, it's possible that it may just be that he's young. As a redshirt freshman, he threw for almost 3,500 yards in 12 games. But he did also have 16 interceptions. But that was 290 yards a game. That is pretty dang good. Led the conference in that metric, but he also led the conference in interceptions. Then the efficiency and production dropped. He went from 288 yards per game to 215. It's supposed to get better as things go along, and it really felt like he faded a bit. He went from a promising but kind of wild freshman. Again, he produced a ton of yards but threw a ton of interceptions, but kid was a redshirt freshman. Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions in his first significant amount of time in a game that game against Wyoming when he came in for Kent Myers. He threw 3 picks. He's a freshman. He's going to do that. But he didn't get better his sophomore year. But everyone's like, well, he has a body of work, and it's not a horrible body of work, and so everyone just assumes he's going to be at the top. Well, I don't want to assume anything. And we talk about Maddox Madsen needing to step into becoming, a really good quarterback. Calandria, I'm not going to struggle pronouncing his name all year. He needs to step up, and he has some improvements to make. Fowler Nicolosi had a chance to improve on a bit of a wild redshirt freshman season, and he largely didn't. And that's the most worrying thing, is when you have a chance to improve and you don't. Like Maddox Madsen, this is his second year as a full-time starter. He's not had, a ton, beyond the one full season, he's not had tons of chances. Fowler Nicolosi had that, and he didn't do it. But he gets another chance. And again, he's not a bad quarterback. I think he should be in the top 5. But I don't want to overrate him. And I feel like some people have overrated him, in some to thinking that he's the best quarterback in the conference. I don't think that's the case.
He's certainly going to be one of the most experienced in the conference, but you're right. There are a lot of inconsistencies with Fowler Nicolosi. Some of that's on him. Some of that's on the offense. Didn't seem like he was asked to do quite as much last year as he had the year before. But he's had very good people to throw to. But not sure what that looks like this season. But there's going to be a little bit more on his shoulders to do more. And we'll see how well he rises to that occasion or not. A few spots behind him, coming in at number 87, interior number 6, is E.J. Warner, the quarterback, former starter at Temple, who now plays for Fresno State.
Oh, I forgot, because E.J., he's at Temple. That means I think the Aggies would have faced him. Oh, no, he was at Rice last year.
Last year he was at Rice.
Oh,
he's bounced around a little bit. But now he's at Fresno. But here's somebody that has thrown for a lot of yards as a college quarterback, but he's also thrown a lot of interceptions. I mean, he's thrown for almost 9,000 yards, but he's also tossed plenty of passes to the wrong team.
Yeah, he might be the active leader in interceptions in FBS. I'd have to double check that, but out of all quarterbacks in FBS, he might have thrown the most interceptions, again, at 37. But this is also a dude who threw for 3,000 yards in 10 games as a sophomore. So, that's north of 300 yards a game. So the guy can sling the ball around. But, yeah, we're really coming up on a lot of quarterbacks in the Mountain West who have a really bad time taking care of the ball. Like, how many? Basically all of them, except for Madsen, who only threw 6 interceptions last year. He had a pretty decent. Of course, he didn't throw the ball like a ton. But
everybody else pretty much double digits.
Yeah, consistently double-digit interceptions, which, if you're in the low double digits, you can kind of live with that. But when some of them are getting to like 16 and 12 and 13, it's like, okay, guys, maybe that's like one interception per game. You got to have a few games where you're not throwing interceptions, and a lot of these guys are having a hard time with a single game not having an interception. And those can be game-losing plays, especially if they come at the wrong time.
In this ranking of quarterbacks, The Athletic did talk to a couple different coaches, some general managers around college football to gather some of their intelligence. And this is what one G5 defensive coordinator said about Werner. He says he struggles to push the ball downfield, but he's smart enough to take the checkdowns and know where the ball should go. If Fresno State is able to do some things, maybe more West Coast style, to use his skill set, he'll be better off. Of course, the Aggies will face Fresno State on the back end of their schedule this year.
A little worried if you're a guy who doesn't push the ball downfield and you're still throwing picks. That doesn't speak well to your ability to read defenses and see people on the field. Because usually quick passes, it's quick reads. You're seeing the defense, and there's, just when you're throwing closer, you can be more accurate. But if you can't read the defense, there's still ample opportunity to throw interceptions on short passes. But it usually means you really screwed up as a quarterback reading. So that worries me a little bit if that's the assessment on him and he's still throwing picks.
Quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. We haven't mentioned Utah State's quarterback just yet. Where is he on this list? What tier is he in? And other quarterbacks throughout the conference, how low do we go on some of these quarterback rankings? We'll discuss next on the other side of this timeout here on the Full Court Press.
Girls, insist he take you to Jarek's. Picking out your wedding ring is an experience you will never forget. Come to a place where the mood is right and the setting is perfect for romance. Jarek's Fine Jewelry in Logan. The perfect collection of memorable designs, classic creation, and modern marvels. If you want an intimate, romantic experience you will never forget, then insist he takes you to Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's at 930 North Main in Logan.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
It's time to make the outdoor living improvements you've talked about. Castellite in Logan has everything you need to turn your backyard get-together into a backyard event. If you need pavers for a walkway, a retaining wall for your garden, or to reshape a flower bed, or a fire pit to roast marshmallows, think Castellite. Their experts will reduce your DIY stress for brick, block, rock, paver, and tile. Go where the pros go. Online at Castellite.com.
They can put your logo on it because that's what they do at the Logo Shop. They can put your logo on anything from pens and mugs to golf balls and clocks. The Logo Shop is also the place for your team shirts and uniforms. So if your team wants to look good, call the Logo Shop and order your team uniforms today. Colors, logo, and everything else looking just like you want it to. Get your team shirts and uniforms from the Logo Shop. Call them to get a bid or just drop by 40 South Main in Logan.
The Logo Shop. The Logo Stop. The Logo Shop.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
Got a fundraiser, charity drive, or nonprofit event coming up? Let us help spread the word. Send the details to calendar@cvradio.com and we'll share it with our community. From bake sales to benefit concerts to community celebrations, Cache Valley Media Group is here to amplify your efforts. We're proud to support the people and causes that make our community stronger. Email calendar@cvradio.com today and let's build a better, more connected community, one event at a time.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
It is happening. It's the Warehouse Parts Sale at Young Power Sports of Logan. It's on Saturday, August 16th from 10 to 4:30. 75% off, up to 75% off. Overstock parts at Young Power Sports of Logan. 2,000 parts from 2019 and older. So if you ride it, they probably got the parts, but when they're gone, they're gone. Go check it out August 16th, 10 to 4:30 at Young Power Sports of Logan. They're on South Main in Logan. They sponsor our text line, 435-339-0321. Had a few texts come in. Some excitement for 2 hours. Thank you, 5452.
Come on, read the text.
2 hours!
There we go.
All caps with multiple exclamation points.
More exclamation points than yesterday. Yesterday there were 3. Today there are 5.
They're growing. Then 2444 texting, and I'm excited for the interviews today and to learn more about the Aggie defense. Who do you guys predict the leaders in tackles, sacks, and interceptions will be for this season? Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's coming up next hour. We'll get into those post-practice
we'll get those interviews. And I'll make a note, and we'll do some predictions for that.
Good questions. But we'll continue on with this list, this ranking of college quarterbacks for the upcoming season put together by The Athletic. They have 7 different tiers, and we've gone through these rankings. We haven't yet hit a Utah State quarterback yet. We're really halfway through the list of quarterbacks from the Mountain West, and there's, Maddox Madsen is in tier 3, stands alone there, number 23 overall. Anthony Colandrea from UNLV at 69 in tier 5. Walker Eget from San Jose also in tier 5, ranked at 81st. In tier 6, this is where we've got a number of Mountain West quarterbacks in this tier, kind of bunched similarly together. Braden Fowler Nicolosi at number 83. E.J. Warner at Fresno State at 87. And this is where we now find Utah State's Bryson Barnes ranked 92nd overall. And The Athletic says Barnes isn't going to wow anyone as a passer, but he emerged as a very credible run threat at the end of last season, rushing for 193 yards against San Diego State and 185 against Colorado State. There's a new staff in place. Bronco Mendenhall is the new head coach, but Barnes' running ability makes him the surest bet among the Aggies' quarterback candidates.
I'll be honest, this is higher than I was expecting The Athletic to rank him. I expect them to be not quite as high on Bryson Barnes. Mind you, I think he'll probably end up higher on this list. I'm going to be blunt. I'm not really optimistic about the quarterbacks in the Mountain West this year. Most of them seem like
Yeah, I agree. There have been years where, my goodness, there's been elite quarterback talent throughout the conference. This year, there's a lot of mediocre. There's a lot of milquetoast, and a lot of we're just not sure. Bryson Barnes, I agree, could be in the top quarter of quarterbacks in the conference based on who he is as a quarterback. But they are right in their assessment that he's not going to wow anyone as a passer. And we've talked about this. He's not an elite thrower. He can make some throws. It's not like he's incompetent at that, but we saw Spencer Petras make better throws than Bryson did. But Bryson, what he can do with his legs and still do some things in the throw game can help the team move and keep moving the chains forward and getting the team down the field. And he's a gamer. He's a guy that will put himself in harm's way to help his team move forward.
Yeah, which hopefully that doesn't get him into trouble in terms of health, and hopefully he can stay on the field, because if he stays on the field, he'll lead the league's quarterbacks in rushing yards. This is a guy who could run for 500-600 yards this season. Sack adjusted, you'd look more towards 700 or 800 on the high end. That's being really optimistic. But this is a guy who could average 30, 40, 50 rush yards a game on the high end, depending on the volume they use him at. If they don't use him a ton, then he'd average like 20 or 30.
And Bronco has made it very clear Bryson is the starting quarterback. Yeah. He is QB1. There's no question about that. There was no quarterback debate in the spring. There was no quarterback debate in the fall.
Yeah, so it's Bryson. That's that. No, that's the one thing that he's been open about. Which honestly, it surprised me. That's usually the one position where coaches are really, they do all that gamesmanship. It's like, oh, maybe I'll start this guy, or, job's always open. It's like, you'll have a guy who threw for 10,000 yards the year before, and it's like, I don't know, the guy might not start this year. But Bronco's been like, no, it's Bryson Barnes. So thank you to Coach for being open on that. But yeah, I think he could he'll lead the leads quarterbacks in rushing yards, and I think he'll be decent. I think he'll throw for between 2,000 and 2,500 yards passing, which, I mean, in terms of total yards responsible for, that'll put him among the league leaders in those total yards. And I think he'll throw a decent number of touchdowns. He'll have a few interceptions, but I think sixth in the Mountain West is higher than I expected him to get ranked. But I think even then, he'll be higher. He's not going to be, I'd be floored if I got to the end of the season and could seriously say Bryson Barnes is the best quarterback in the Mountain West. I would be surprised if I found myself saying that. Even top 2 maybe. But I think in terms of top 3, top 4, he could end up in that conversation. If he manages to kind of hone his passing a little bit, and if he's used the right way in the run game and manages to take advantage of the scheme in terms of the run game, he could be one of the best quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the biggest thing for him is having some faith in his arm and his tight ends and receivers, and that he can make a throw. Because if he continues to just quickly do a quick check down, pull the ball and run, then it's not sustainable. We've seen it too many times. There's going to be some plays that are going to be, wow, that's amazing. Look what he did. But eventually it catches up to them where you get dinged up a little too much, too often, and then he's just not the same level of quarterback, or he can't even get in the game. There are some backups that Utah State has that maybe they could be okay. But I think there's a pretty big gap between Bryson Barnes and who the number 2 QB is going to be, which I don't even know who that is at this point.
Probably Anthony Garcia. I don't even know if anybody behind Garcia even has been in Division I long enough to really want to put them in. I can't even remember who their quarterback depth is beyond Bryson Barnes and Anthony Garcia. I actually don't think I could name another quarterback off the top of my head.
Now his name is escaping, but he transferred over here from Arizona State. I think he spent a minute at BYU.
I think that guy graduated.
He's still here. I saw him today.
Really?
Yeah.
Still around?
And then CJ Tiller. Transferred from Boise State.
Okay. So, yeah, obviously they have, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks. You tend to. But yeah, it's like you need Barnes to stay healthy. 9-5 on this topic saying, I think Barnes is way too low. Just look at the QB in the Mountain West. I bet end of year, if he stays on the field at number 1 or 2 for best in the Mountain West. See, and I just don't see him as being the best, partially because as far as a passer, he is probably 6th or 7th in terms of his pure passing ability.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he'll be, that rushing, and the fact that he'll be a good enough passer that pushes him potentially into the top 5. But for him to be the best quarterback in the Mountain West, he has to be about twice as good of a passer as he is now. Maybe that's a bit of an extreme, but he needs to be a much better passer than he is now. Because right now he has the arm to make every throw, and he does make every throw, but he's not consistent and consistent in his accuracy. And that's kind of the issue with him, is that he needs to make big strides as a passer if he's going to be the best. He doesn't need to make big strides to be effective. I think he's reached a baseline that he can be an effective quarterback. But if he's going to be the best quarterback in the Mountain West, kid's got to take big strides. And for this late in his career, he's most of what he's going to be, at least in college.
Yeah, and the thing, it's a combination. It can't be, for those truly elite quarterbacks to emerge, almost always you see they have elite receivers because they help make each other look good. And I don't know, right now there's some question about what the receiving core looks like for Utah State.
It's a lot of cast-offs. You got to, and mind you, Utah State has taken P5 cast-offs and turned them into pretty dang good receivers. COC Mariner, he caught almost 1,000 yards.
Yes.
After wallowing at Utah for several years. So you could find a guy who can be better than you expect him to be. But yeah, like Bryson Barnes, if he's going to be the best, it's going to take some big strides. A 9-5 again, saying I'm just going off what Bronco said for his system in terms of Bryson Barnes. Yeah, I think if you can craft a system around Bryson Barnes that'll make an effective offense, but it's not going to mean Bryson Barnes is the best quarterback in the Mountain West.
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do as a quarterback to make game-winning type plays, and it's not always about throwing the smoothest, deepest ball in the tightest windows. But if you can do that, that's going to help your team in a lot of other ways. Just if you can keep defenses guessing as to what you're going to do, that split second to have them think a little bit more. Is he going to run? Is he going to throw? If they know that they can respect the throwing game, then that's going to help your offense a great deal.
Yeah, Air Force had an amazing system around Zeke Daniels a few years ago that didn't make him the best quarterback in the Mountain West.
Very true. All right, let's keep going on our list. The next one is Chubba Purdy at Nevada, coming in at number 100. Purdy, this will be his 6th season in college. He's bounced around at a lot of different teams. This is a guy who's had a lot of different injuries. He has really struggled to stay healthy. He's been highly recruited, highly touted, but he's just had a hard time playing a full season. Nevada's hoping that it will work for them. Honestly, I'm a little surprised to see him ranked as high as he is, just because he doesn't have much of a complete body of work to go off of. There's this idea that he could be a good quarterback, but we just haven't seen him be a good quarterback, at least not for any long particular stretch of time.
Yeah, he went from Florida State, then he went to Nebraska to try and revive his career. Then that didn't work. Went to Nevada last year and couldn't break into the starting lineup at Nevada. It's like, at some point, kid's got to capitalize on his potential, but he's, it's like another quarterback we may end up getting to. I know we got to get to another break here, but there's some guys where it's like, if you're highly recruited coming out of high school, at some point, the hype wears off and maybe you didn't live up to your potential, and maybe you should stop basing your analysis based on what they were 6 years ago and base your analysis based on what they were the last few years.
Yeah, look, I met Chubba down at the Media Days in Las Vegas. Nice guy. But this is a guy who's been around a lot of different places in college football. He's been in several different Power 4 programs, but he hasn't really seen things come to fruition. So I'm a little surprised he's ranked as high as he is, because where's the body of work to support that he is, a top 100 quarterback?
Yeah.
Just don't see it.
So we got to hit another break. When we come back, we got 5 quarterbacks to go. We've gone a lot longer in this topic than I thought we were going to go. But so we've just crossed number 7 on the list. We got 5 more to go, so we'll talk about them. And then a few other people of interest, quarterbacks from schools, BYU, Utah, a few Mountain West opponents. We'll get into those, or a few non-conference opponents, We'll get into those coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
While you're making memories this summer on the lake, in the mountains, or around the fire pit, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you plan for days to come. Adams Wealth Advisors loves being your trusted neighbor and believes that smart financial planning is the key to a life well lived. Whether you're nearing retirement or just getting started, let Adams Wealth Advisors build a plan that gives you peace of mind today and tomorrow. Google Adams Wealth Advisors for a free consultation today. Local roots, lifelong guidance.
It's that time of the year. Fresh zucchini is everywhere. And at Old Grist Mill, they're baking it into the perfect special. The Old Grist Mill is making warm, fresh, baked zucchini bread, just like Grandma used to make. Simple ingredients and fresh zucchini to create moist, flavorful bread the old-fashioned way. It's the taste of the season. Stop by South Logan, or Smithville to grab a loaf or 2 before it's gone. And don't forget, Old Grist Mill makes all your favorite fresh bread, scones, muffins, and now serving breakfast in Logan and Smithville. Dine in, take out, curbside, or catering. Old Grist Mill is here for you.
Express Tire, tires for less. In and out with zero stress. Express Tire, tires for less.
Any brand, any size.
At Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, Feel the Love is more than just heating and cooling. It means giving back. 5 complete HVAC systems will be donated to a deserving person or family. Feel the love and nominate that person or family in need at mtnvalleyhvac.com. Nominate prior to September 1st, 2025. See website for all details.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Congratulations to all the gold and silver winners in the Best of Northern Utah contest. You can find out who won based on people's votes here in the community at bestofnorthernutah.com, or find a free magazine at over a dozen different locations throughout Northern Utah. It's a great guide to find out a variety of different services, people, businesses, clients, but the best of what they do. The Best of Northern Utah, bestofnorthernutah.com. Going through the quarterbacks in the Mountain West as ranked by The Athletic, they went 1 through 136, and we've gone through the top 100, and 7 quarterbacks on that list. Still in Tier 6. There's a number of quarterbacks here in Tier 6. Next on the list at 105, Micah Alejado, the quarterback at Hawaii. Young quarterback, only played in a couple of games last year, was able to preserve his red shirt. Small, but his head coach is very high on him with his ability to get the ball out quickly and get it in the right place.
I'll be honest, I'm high on this guy too. My first impression of him is that he actually played his first, I don't know if it was his first ever snaps, but his first significant snaps against Utah State over on Merlin Olsen Field. And I'll always remember the fact that he went 11 of 12 in that game for like 100 yards and change, and I think maybe even a touchdown, and showed some pretty good athleticism, dipping and dodging, around the Aggie pass rush, who were having a field day that day, because I remember the game they won like 56-10 or something like that. And so he goes 11 of 12, is really efficient, and he kept getting benched for a guy who completed like 3 passes and almost completed as many passes to the Aggies as he completed to his own guys. Mike eventually got his day in the sun, because then he absolutely balls out against New Mexico, which, mind you, you or I could throw for a couple hundred yards against that New Mexico defense.
Yeah, but he threw for
470. Yeah, so he did really well.
And he didn't throw any interceptions.
I think it was like 5 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, or 4 touchdowns. I forget exactly the number, but I actually think this guy's probably a top 5 quarterback in the Mountain West. That's a bit bold to say right now, and I don't want to base that entirely on one game against a pretty porous New Mexico defense and his other great performances against the Utah State defense that was kind of iffy at times last year. But this is a guy who I think has a talent. Sure, he's a bit small, but when you're a quarterback in college, you can afford to be small. It's kind of like college basketball. You can be a little shorter in college basketball.
He's listed at 5'10", 180. He's probably more like 5'9", 170.
Yeah, but you can play at that height in college. It might hurt you a little bit, but you can play at that height if you got enough of the tools and enough of the athleticism. I think this guy is going to really shock some people. I don't know if Hawaii is going to parlay that into being a really good team, but Hawaii's had some gunslingers in the past, and I think Micah could join that group.
Yeah, Timmy Chang knows how to coach quarterbacks. The last player for the Mountain West in Tier 6 at number 110, Jack Lane at New Mexico. Known or talked about as being a promising passer, given proper protection, but won't really do much. Yeah, that's true. But won't really do much in the run game. So he's more of a pocket passer, and so very different type of quarterback than what New Mexico enjoyed last year.
It's like the exact opposite. Because Evan Dampier isn't like a dynamic passer. He's a good passer, but he was like super dynamic in the run game. And well, of course, Jack, if he's only as good a passer as Devin Dampier was last year, New Mexico could be in trouble.
Well, he follows Coach Eck from Idaho. The offensive coordinator came as well. So coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback came together. So there's familiarity there. But, yeah, he's a pocket passer, and New Mexico is starting from scratch, trying to build up their offense.
Yeah, and if you're going to be just a pure pocket passer, which despite what some people say about, how effective athletic quarterbacks are, you can be a statue in the pocket and be the best quarterback in the conference. But you got to be a dang good passer to do so, especially with modern college offenses where a lot of them can kind of need to rely on an athletic quarterback to be dynamic. But we'll see. Maybe Jack's got it in him.
Now we come into the bottom tier, tier number 7, a largely unproven group, some decent G5 returning starters, but also QBs who haven't played much at all or have made multiple stops in their college careers in hopes of putting it all together. And so the first quarterback from the Mountain West in Tier 7 at number 118, Jaden Denegal at San Diego State.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about him. San Diego State is really trying to retool things, trying to get things going with their offense because they brought in an offensive an offensive coach, and they weren't particularly great. So they do bring in a guy who was at Michigan, but he's thrown 5 career attempts, 5 career passes. And his
last pass was thrown in 2023.
Yeah, that's true. So he didn't even throw it all last year. And he has 4 career rush attempts, and I strongly suspect 1 or more of those was a kneel down.
And he may not really be the guy. Central Michigan transfer is also in the mix with Burt Emanuel Jr. So San Diego State's trying to find their guy, and they're uncertain who that is. At number 121 at Wyoming, Caden Anderson. Started 3 games for them last year, and they're hoping that he can help kind of kickstart what he did last year into a better season this year. But again, he's ranked 121. He's a little bit low on the list.
He's maybe the warning sign of talk about Micah Alejado, where he had 470 yards against New Mexico. Caden Anderson threw 342 against New Mexico, but he didn't go over 180 in any other game last year, which included all the times he was starting. So this is a guy who might not be spectacular.
Big body, 6'4", 230, but yeah, not a great passer.
I like their big, tall quarterbacks at Wyoming.
This they do, and they've had some success with that.
They've had one success with that.
That's true. And then the last quarterback on this list, you haven't heard us talk about Air Force, and for good reason. I would suspect that in a ranking of quarterbacks in college football, someone from a service academy would probably be a little bit low on that list, but I don't know if I would have suspected this low, but coming in dead last at 136, Josh Johnson at Air Force.
I mean, he's thrown 14 passes, and I think he completed 6 of them. He's only rushed 14 times because at Air Force, your measure of a quarterback is often measured more by their running ability than their passing ability. I mentioned Zeke Daniels. I think he had a completion percentage for his career under 50, but dynamic runner, and he completes enough of his passes, and when Air Force completes a pass, it's usually for 30 yards, so you're getting the job done in that case. But yeah, I know when Troy Calhoun came on with you guys at Media Day, he mentioned that he had 30 snaps total in the quarterback room. That is an inexperienced group.
Yes.
So
and Johnson has pretty much all of those.
I think he pretty much has all of them. He might have because, like I said, 14 passes, 14 rushes. That's presumably 28 snaps. Almost to 30 there. So you assume he's a starter because he's the only one who stepped onto the field wearing cleats. So and full shoulder pads and helmets. So, but yeah, a lot to prove for Josh Johnson.
All right, so that's the quarterback tiers throughout college football as ranked by The Athletic. Do you agree or disagree with those rankings? Anybody you would have put higher or lower? Let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line 435-339-0321.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Make it 5 years in a row. Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the Best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They thank you for your support and vote of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the 5-time gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI, online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Hello, Cache Valley. Did you know the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan has bike and tube rentals? That's right. The Sportsman has kids' bikes, bikes for cruising around town, hardtail mountain bikes, and full suspension electric bikes for rent. If you haven't ridden an e-bike, you are missing out on so much fun. We can even give you ideas where to ride. If you need to rent a tube or many tubes for Bear Lake, Hiram Dam, or the Narrows in Idaho, we have those too. Come to the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan for your summer bike and tube rentals. Tons of parking in the back.
Hi, it's Emily, and here at Serenoni, we start with the thread, literally. We knit all of our own fabrics so we can control the softness, the weight, and the quality. So your blanket isn't just soft at first, it stays soft, strong, and beautiful over time. From our softest minky to lush, stretch, cotton muslin, and waffle, we create comfort that holds up from newborn snuggles to movie nights. Established in 2006 right here in Logan, come experience the quality for yourself at our store on 10th West next to iFit. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Fuel treatments from Stanadine, Howes, and Seafoam are on sale at Napa Auto Parts for only $8.49 a can. Mention you heard this ad and get Napa 15W40 Premium Diesel Oil for $11.99 a gallon. Cash and carry only at your locally owned Preston or Providence Napa Auto Parts. So, yeah, we've been going through these lists of college quarterbacks ranked by The Athletic. A few other notable names, just real quick, some opponents or other school quarterbacks throughout the state of Utah.
So from the state of Utah, you got Devin Dampier at Utah, obviously. He's 25. Then you have McKay Hillstead, the presumed starter, according to The Athletic, at BYU, coming in at 99. Not super optimistic about the Cougars quarterback. A few Utah State opponents, the highest out of any opponent is, it's not Maddox Madsen, it's actually Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. So he comes in at 15th. And then you have Marcel or Markel Reed, the Texas A&M quarterback, who had an okay freshman year last year, but he comes in at 26. They're expecting him to take a big step forward. And then they had Malachi Nelson, the former number 1 overall recruit, who was at USC, then Boise State. Now he's at UTEP. Although I'm not sure Malachi Nelson's even going to start at UTEP. So this is one where I was like, I'm not sure that's actually the guy who's going to start because it's Sean Locklear, I think. I wrote a whole preview, and his Skyler. His name's sort of in my head. I have to go back and double check his name, but it looks like he still has that job decently in his grasp. So, although I don't think he would rank much higher than Malachi Nelson. And he ranked him at 129. So
pretty low.
Not super high on whoever's starting at quarterback at UTEP.
Speaking of quarterbacks, really cool story. We mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but more opportunity to get into it today. Jordan Love with a really neat piece in the Players Tribune. And it's a lot about his upbringing. His dad, who passed away when he was only 14, but also about the influence he had on his life, and his mom, who has been a great supporter, traveling to all of his games, even though when he was at Utah State as a backup and not even expected to play, she still traveled with him to the team, and then transitioning to Green Bay, where he was the backup there, and eventually kind of finding his own way and being his own man at Green Bay. But a lot of praise for Aaron Rodgers and some of the things that he did and how he helped mentor Jordan Love as a young quarterback.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the story as a whole, I think it's an amazing reflection on sports and the impact that it can have on your actual life. Because it's a very personal article from Love, where he talks about his upbringing. He talks about the impact that his dad, who committed suicide, how that had an impact on his life, but also his mom, in supporting. And it goes beyond sports. That's the thing. It applies to Jordan Love for sports. It's his mom supporting him in his endeavors, specifically in sports. And when it's something like sports, it ends up becoming pretty public because obviously it's an entertainment thing. But it applies to other things. And I think it's kind of one of those things where you can learn a lesson of, hey, support those around you.
Well, and he talks in detail about how playing sports is what kept him going.
Yeah.
Because when he was on the field with his teammates, things were normal. Because when he was going through the hallways in school, people were patting him on the shoulder. I'm sorry, bro. And sorry, this happened to you. What can I do? And it was like a triggering effect to bring all those bad memories back to him. But when he was playing football, he was just one of the guys just out there playing football. And that's just what they were having fun trying to do. And that was his escape. And that's what saved him and kept him sane through a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And so it's ultimately an inspirational story, and in a way that actually applies, because we talk about, sports being an inspiration and all that. And it's like these kind of stories are what's inspiration. There is nothing inspirational about Jordan Love throwing a 60-yard touchdown. There is a whole lot inspirational about what he went through to get to that point where he's throwing a 60-yard touchdown. And so that's the, celebration of life through sports, to steal a phrase that I've heard before. It's that where you can really get a lens on actual life through sports, is through this kind of storytelling.
Right, and great stories about parenting and supporting your kids and helping them through things. And so really, really great read. Hope you can find it, the Players Tribune. It's a great piece from Jordan Love about his journey to where he is now. A lot more to get through next hour here on the Full Court Press. Don't go away. We've got some player interviews, post-practice interviews, more about Utah State football coming up next hour here on 106.9 FM, The Fan.
Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. We all know Pro Bowl nods can be a little misleading, but at what point do we admit the NFL might have a full-blown Pro Bowl problem? Case in point, the Browns added...
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac